Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name's Lysha. I'm the owner of Lysha Be Creative, and today I'm back with yet another tutorial, and we're doing a monochromatic look. So monochromatic means following one color, and so I'm going to show you two different versions of a monochromatic look, one using alcohol inks as my base in an all blue monochromatic look, and then I'm also going to show you a version using all glitter. So we're going to have a glitter monochromatic look as well. So of course, all the products that I use in today's video will be both listed and linked down in the description box down below. You could even find some discount codes there to save you a little bit of extra money. Before you leave, be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It helps me continue to grow, and I love putting out this content for you guys to help you continue in your Tumblr journey. So let's go ahead and jump right into today's tutorial.
All right, so we are jumping right in here. We're going to start with the glitter look. So I wanted to show you how many glitters we're going to be using today. And so the idea here is that we're going to be creating sort of almost like an ombre of 5 different shades of the color purple, okay? So what I will say is that for this, I wanted to try and stay away from just doing like 2 or 3 colors, because you really could create a beautiful gradient monochromatic look with just a couple colors. So I wanted to challenge myself and decided to go with 5 different shades of purple, kind of moving from darkest to lightest. So of course I will list all of the glitters we're using down in the description box down below, but let's go ahead and jump into us applying this glitter to the cup. So we're going to be doing this with the epoxy method glitter application. For me, as I have mentioned time and time again in my tutorials, I prefer to use the epoxy method glitter application when I'm going to be doing an ombre that's going to be more than 2 colors. That way I have a little bit more working time when I'm using epoxy versus Mod Podge, which tends to dry up on me quite quick, and I don't usually have enough time to get all of my glitters applied. So I am just mixing up equal parts of part A and part B, about 5 ml in total of the epoxy that I'm using. I do typically use my fast setting epoxy KS resin liquidy split as my epoxy additive for glitter adhesive, and so I know that I have about a working time of about 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes a little bit less than, depending on how warm my room is, but that's more than enough time for me to be able to get all these glitters on the cup. So I'm now going to apply that thin coat of epoxy onto my tumbler. I did base paint this 20-ounce tumbler with just a basic purple color. I used aromatherapy from Color Shop, but any purple base will work. You could even do this on a white base, but I really wanted to make sure that the purple glitters were very vibrant. So by choosing just this one color base, it's really just going to help all the purple glitter that's applied to the cup pop that much more. So I want to make sure I'm getting a nice thin coat of glitter all onto this tumbler, going from top to bottom, really focusing on that top edge, because sometimes epoxy will repel from that top edge. So spending a little bit of extra time there before we get into doing our layers of glitter. So you guys know when I am kind of working with my ombres, which is kind of how we're going to treat this, even though it's all going to be the same color, right? Is I like to work with my chunkiest and my thickest cut of glitter first. And so you'll see what I first did too was, because I know I have 5 different color shades I'm working with, I made sure to kind of, with my fingers kind of measure out just about where all of my glitter is going to lay, just to help me better determine how I'm going to lay these first few colors. So the first glitter that I went in with was Dreamcatcher from Shop Vinyl Gallery. And then right now I'm going in with Dazed. This is from Peachy Olive Glitter. So these are, again, my chunkier versions of the glitters that I'm using in the gradient of the shade of purple. Now I'm going in with Mommy O. Mommy O is like a hexagon cut glitter from Peachy Olive Glitters as well. We're going in now with the third coat. So right now I'm just kind of creating that landscape as I talk about with you guys. So kind of determining where those different strips of the different shades of my purple are going to go. That way when I go in with my finer colors, I'm really going to be able to kind of blend into the color below and above it to give myself a really beautiful monochromatic look. So for this fourth color here, you'll notice that I'm going in with a white. So I didn't have a color that matched the metallic pink peony color I wanted to use for my Aisha creations. So a way to get around kind of having to have a chunkier color of that glitter, I'm going to use Unicorn Sneeze from Shop Vinyl Gallery. And that is going to be kind of like an opal translucent color that kind of mimics that blue to purple shift, which is going to pick up the purple tones of the spray paint of the base of this cup. For my final chunky color, we went in with Melrose right at the top there. That is going to get our lightest color of purple shade that we have picked out for glitter. So now that I have my base done, I'm going in with my second cuts, if you will. Some of these only have 2 cuts of glitter, a chunky and a fine. For this deepest color, I do have 3 colors I'm working with here. So over Dreamcatcher, we're putting Purple Diamond from Aisha Creations and really focusing on getting a nice even coverage along the bottom rim and on the very bottom side of the tumbler before I start to kind of gently tip my cup up at a 45-degree angle and start to slightly blend into the color above it. With that color now away, we're going to go to our next shade and we're going to be using Barney. So Barney is a finer cut of Days, which is the color we put down first. And so the first thing I like to do is I like to immediately blend down into the deepest color. And then I'm going to flip my cup back up at that 45-degree angle, pointing with the bottom side up to slightly blend into what will be the third color on the cup. So when you're working this, you're doing an ombre just like you would with multiple colors, obviously with the same shade and color, you know, with just different shades of the same color. I mean, you're really not going to have to do a whole lot of blending, but you still do want to make sure that you're blending one color to the next. So there aren't really super harsh lines that kind of look like bands or strips of glitter through the entire cup. So this is Fresh Prince from Peachy Olive Glitter. So we put that over top of the Unicorn Sneeze color, which was that third color that we had kind of laid out there just to kind of pick up the purple tones. We're now going to go in with Pink Peony and we're going to kind of base that over the next section here. Again, I start with blending downward because I've gotten most of the coverage in that direction, and then I do a slight blend upward towards my lightest color. So for my final glitter color for the lightest color, actually we have 2 colors here. So in this section, just like the deepest purple section we're doing, we have 3 cuts of color here. So we're going to go in with Vervain first and really get a nice base over top of Melrose. So Vervain is a little bit of a finer cut of Melrose, and so we're going to go over that first there, and then we're going to use a super fine cut glitter over the Vervain there. But before I do that, I am going to go in with this, believe this is Believer or Teague. So these are both kind of similar cuts from Peachy Olive Glitter, but they match my Purple Diamond really well as sort of a blending color. So we're just sort of using that as the finer color to add to this bottom section. So the final color that kind of rounds out this gradient or monochromatic look is we're going in with Lavender Secret from Glitter Makes It. And this is a super, super fine glitter, so I didn't want to do this directly over top of Melrose because I felt like it would kind of still look a little bit flat. So that's why I went in with Vervain, which is kind of like a fine cut, but not a super fine, so that I was able to kind of use Lavender Secret to just pick up anything that I may have missed towards the top portion of the cup. So now that I'm pretty satisfied with my look here, I'm just going to give this a once over, make sure I'm not missing any spots of epoxy where I may not have gotten any glitter applied. I'm going to tap this off with a brush just to kind of get any excess glitter to fall. And then I'm going to go back in with a final color. So what I like to do when I'm doing multiple colors is a good way to kind of blend all your colors together is to put over top like a really fine opal glitter. So this glitter is Jewel from Glitter by Mama Boss. I will list this one down in the description box as well. It's a beautiful opal color, so it's not going to look completely white. It's really going to pick up all the colors underneath because it's a translucent glitter, but it's perfect. And I always like to use kind of a white opal or translucent glitter over top as a fine glitter over top of all of the colors to kind of just get everything to blend that much better. So we're going to tap this off and we're going to let this dry before we put it under epoxy. So while we're waiting for that to dry, let's go ahead and get over to our alcohol ink cup. So for this cup, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying alcohol inks using epoxy. So you don't have to do it this way. There's multiple ways that you can create kind of a monochromatic look with alcohol inks, but I wanted to go back to show you guys dropping inks directly into epoxy because I haven't done that in a while, and so I thought this would be a good opportunity to do so. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put about 10 mLs or so on the cup. I'm putting enough epoxy on the cup to elicit some movement when we add heat, but I don't want to put so much on there that it's kind of flooding and there's already movement happening because I have too much of epoxy applied. When you're dropping inks directly into your epoxy on your turner, you want to be mindful of how much epoxy you're putting on the cup because too much is going to cause too much movement, and then you might end up with more of a muddled mess versus more of a gradient or swirl or whatever it is that you might be going for. So once I've gotten my epoxy applied to my cup, I do just let it spin and I will torch it really quickly before we get into dropping our inks. So I've decided to just do 5 different alcohol inks that I have on hand. Alternatively, instead of doing the way that I'm showing you, you could use one color, sort of like a deep color, and you could just kind of add that to your bottom and start with your darkest and then add a drop of white ink into like a cup and apply with a pipette, if that makes sense. So using one color and then just adding a white mixative alcohol ink to make the tone lighter as you go up the cup. So I'm going to show you doing this sort of like I did with the glitter with 5 different alcohol inks in a monochromatic look versus doing what I had mentioned with just adding white alcohol ink, more white alcohol ink as you get up the length of the cup. But that's another way that you could do this. Or you could do and apply these using makeup wedges instead of doing it with using an epoxy turner and a turner in order to kind of get this mix ingredient monochromatic look we're going for. Okay, so the first color I'm starting with my Astra. So my Astra is from Jen's Crafted Gems inks. This is from her pastel pack, her Dollhouse pack. It's a really beautiful pale blue and it gives me Easter vibes. So I cannot wait to get a cup ready for Easter using these beautiful pastel colors. I'm now going to go in with Stream. So Stream was a little bit more on the green teal side than I wanted, but it was the closest color that I had that kind of went with this monochromatic look I was going for. The third color we're using is Aquamarine. Aquamarine by far is my favorite alcohol ink color ever. I use this a lot, which is why I ended up using this quite a bit. I think I ended up using like the whole bottle of this. And what I'm doing here is you'll notice that I'm using these colors and covering all of the white exposed on the tumbler. So I'm trying to make sure that I have an even amount of each color as I go down the length of the cup, okay? My final color here is Phone Home, and this is from Jen's Crafted Gems, her primary pack. So I'll list all the links I used. I know I didn't mention all of them, but I'll list all of them down in the description box in the order that I applied them so that you guys know which ones you would like to grab up. But again, you don't have to do this in the blue shade that I'm doing. You can do this in various different colors, or you can use one color like I mentioned if you don't have a lot of inks, and then just get a white alcohol ink that's a mixative ink and just kind of make that monochromatic look kind of get lighter from the bottom of your cup being the darkest and then moving up to the lightest by adding more white alcohol ink as you go. So now that I have all of my inks applied, I've covered up all of the exposed white that I have. Right now I'm just focusing on the bottom portion of my cup, making sure that that gets covered with alcohol ink as well. But when I'm satisfied with this is when I'll start to add my heat. So I personally like to apply heat when I'm using alcohol inks in this sort of fashion, like dropping them directly into epoxy, because I like to have a little bit of movement. So the way that you're going to get your epoxy to move is by applying heat with like a heat gun like I'm using, an embossing gun. You also are going to see me take my cup off of the turner, like remove it off the turner and hold it, you know, upside down, right side up. And that also gets a little bit of movement and flow between all of the colors. What I'm trying to do is make sure I don't have super harsh lines where one color flows to the next. So sort of like what we did in an ombre with all of the different shades of purple in the glitter gradient monochromatic look. We're trying to elicit that with a little bit of the introduction of heat, blending some of those colors between, you know, kind of color to color to kind of give more of a seamless transition from dark to light from the bottom to the top of the cup. So after I have applied a little bit of ink, I then will go back and just touch up any areas where maybe I feel like I don't have enough ink, or maybe the colors have shifted so much that you're not able to pick up all of the colors, and then pick up anything and cover up anything that maybe exposed some of the white base that's underneath here. So you can apply you can apply heat, not ink. I mean that too. You can apply heat and ink until you're satisfied. It's completely up to you. I have mentioned before, when doing alcohol inks or any sort of cup where you're doing a lot of the work on the turner and using your turner and heat to kind of give you your result, I always say less is more. You can always come back and apply another coat of epoxy and add more inks over top if you wanted to, if you weren't super satisfied. But when you've gone too far and it starts to look like a hot mess, and you're going to be able to determine that for yourself, that's when there's kind of no turning back, and there's not always a whole lot that you can do at that point. So if you're someone who's like me, who sometimes I can just take it way too far, I have to give myself a limit, and I have to kind of step back and kind of let it do its thing, you know, with the heat and the turner, and kind of be satisfied. So I'm pretty happy with this. And so that's going to cure for, you know, a few hours. I'm then going to do 2 final coats on that, because that's all that cup needed. And now we're back to our monochromatic purple cup. So this cup has already gotten 2 coats of epoxy here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do my sanding now. And we're going to just do a super simple decal. So this is going to be a mama decal. I just feel like that these monochromatic cup vibes really just give me like spring fever, I guess. Like, I really think that these would be a super cute look for Mother's Day and Father's Day cups. Really super simple kind of theme and idea. Maybe even adding like some monochromatic florals that go with the color that you're using, and then putting a simple name on the tumbler. I feel like this could be such a cute look for spring. So I'm just gonna, of course, do my sanding. I then will wipe this down with some 91% rubbing alcohol and a paper towel. Feel free to take this inside to wash it with dish soap and water. That is also completely fine. And then we're going to apply the decal. So I'll list the font that I used down in the description box. It's a new one that I picked up from Creative Fabrica, which you guys know has literally been my go-to spot and place for everything. So I will list that down in the description box down below. And I've just cut this on some white vinyl that we're going to apply to the cup here. So nothing too kind of crazy with this. I know that this was not a super like huge in-depth tutorial for this, but I wanted to show you this kind of alternative look. And I feel like this is a great way to also practice doing ombres, especially if you're going to choose the glitter route, doing ombres, but keeping it within the same shade and color, because sometimes it's a little bit easier to blend, right? Than trying to blend 3 different colors of, you know, different shades and trying to blend those together. So this is also like an alternative that I think might be good for practicing. So we're going to get this applied, and that kind of will be it for this tutorial. I am going to put together another tutorial showing you how to bling out this name. So I really want to bling out this word mama on this cup, because I think it would just create such a beautiful look to this very simple design. And so that will be something that is coming. So be on the lookout for that. But that is kind of it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the final results of both cups. So that is it for today's tutorial. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, be sure to give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And you guys know that I will see you in the next one. Bye!